Welcome back into the film room. I'm your host, Eric Turner. We have another game review, a playoff game review, a Bills Colts review. We're going to do a little of the offense film breakdown, a little of defense, mainly the turning point at the end of the first half, guys. But before we get into the stats, before we get into the topics, I got to introduce my man from Disguise Coverage, Anthony. What's up, brother?
Well, I'm doing good. I'm happy to be back on the film room. It's good to be here in another episode following a Bills win, and a big one at that, in this wild card weekend against the Colts.
Yeah, it was an awesome game, but as we were talking leading into this show off air, it was to us, we were very anxious. I was telling Anthony at the end of this game when the fumble was what the call stood, and that obviously was a mess up from the officials, and then you had obviously Josh Allen and the sack and the fumble. I said it. It felt like we were going down that Billsy road that we had seen for so many years, and it was almost gone. I said, if the Hail Murray hadn't happened this year, I think that term Billsy would have been out of my vocab for good. But it was going down that road, man. How did you feel at the end of that game?
Oh, same. I've said it before on the pod and on Twitter, like that paranoia. It doesn't matter how good the Bills are ever. The Bills can win the next 10 Super Bowls in a row. That paranoia and that feeling like the rug can be pulled out from me at any second is ingrained in me and will forever be that way. And so when the Colts started breaking off big plays in the fourth, and then Allen fumbles and Poyer strips Pascal, but they let the Colts keep the ball.
Terrible.
I was basically just like rocking back and forth, like not like this. Like you and I were talking, like I was super paranoid, super anxious, and that same thing crept in my brain. I was like, this would be so Bills. This would be such a Billsy loss. It's going to get memed and named. And yeah, I was freaking out.
Yeah, and Rick says here, you thank God Rivers had no arm. That ball was never getting into the end zone. Yeah, but Anthony had mentioned something prior to the show. Maybe they put in Brissett for this. Maybe something crazy happens. But it looked, I'll say, it looked like the Bills were a lot more prepared this time. They defended it completely different. I like what they did with the odd man front, and that fourth guy, Addison, kind of being the joker, moving around, determining where he's going to rush from. I liked how they had the linebackers out wide and Edmonds and Milano kind of pressing on 2 out of 3 of those receivers. They had the defensive backs along the goal line, had Micah Hyde in the back of the end zone running, making a running start. And it was they were prepared, after the fact. But when we were going through it, I was extremely nervous, and this game was like that because it felt like a heavyweight battle. We always talk about the slugfest of two good teams going back and forth, and this game really felt like that to me, especially early on in the game. It was obvious. Yes, they were a 7 seed, but they were a damn good team that the Bills faced last week, and a well-coached and well-schemed team. Everyone knows that. We talked about that lead into the game. Very similar front offices, very similar personalities, characters, integrity, what they look for in players. When we talk about the schemes, we're very similar. And I thought from an overall sense that the staff and the coaching staff and the scouts of the Colts really had a beat specifically on the Bills defense. And if you listen to or watch Micah Hyde after the game, he said they obviously watched a lot of film on us. They schemed us up on some plays. And at times, Anthony, it felt like it was almost too easy for Rivers in that offense.
Yeah, they had a really good game plan coming in, and they coupled that with quality execution on the field. Phillip Rivers is a very good quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's been doing this for so long. And you mentioned it, on both sides of the ball, their coaching staff, Eberflus on defense and then Reich on offense, really architecting that entire scheme. It's a quality football team. I think a lot of Bills fans came into this wild card game. I saw it on social media. I saw it when we did the film room last week. I saw it in the chat in my latest episode of Disguise Coverage. A lot of people thought this was going to be like a cakewalk. People were like, 38-20 Bills, or it's going to be 41-24. This will be easy. We're the 2, they're the 7. And like you said, and you hinted at, I didn't care what the seeding was. I wanted this matchup for the Bills, but I didn't think it was going to be easy. They're a quality coach team. They've got studs. You don't end up with, I think it was 6 total all-pros on the first and second team, which was tied for first in the league. They've got studs on both sides of the ball. They're well coached. They're a good organization. And they execute well on the field, but they do their homework and they do their prep work. And exactly what you said, it did seem easy. There were guys running just wide open offensively for the Colts. And then on defense, they were able to stifle Josh Allen in the offense for a decent amount of the game and force some 3-and-outs. And they did things that you just kind of were left puzzled after each drive. And the reason they did that is because they're a quality run group and they came in with a solid game plan and they nailed it.
Yeah, and that game plan was perfect. And coming to the game, it was the priority for the Bills defense was to stop the run, stop Jonathan Taylor. The guy's been on a tear for a couple months now. And Jerry Hughes after the game said that they charted basically all of their games. And anytime that offense got up over 100 yards from a running back, more times than not, they won. And I was surprised to hear that they compared Taylor's ability as a running back to Le'Veon Bell, where, he may have the entry for the A gap on this run, but he can hit the backside C gap in a heartbeat on the jump cut, as we previewed with Zach Hicks leading into the game. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, I thought, was obviously the priority, and I thought they did a good job against him.
Yeah, I think for all intents and purposes, I know there were some explosive runs that the Colts had. I believe it was 6 that they had 6 explosive runs for the Colts, but several of those are from Hines. I thought the Bills did overall pretty well on Taylor, knowing that was the focus. And you did a great breakdown with Zach Hicks last week in charting that. And we saw what Taylor did down the stretch. He had over 1,100 rushing yards in the month of December. He was crushing it just week in and week out. He had that run in week 17 against Jacksonville to ice it, where he gets in the hole and literally makes the man miss in the hole and then just goes from 0 to 60 in what feels like 2 steps, and he houses it for about a 50-yard touchdown. He was real dangerous, and their strength to be able to run inside and outside, combined with the arguably third best or top best run blocking offensive line in the league, led by All-Pro Quentin Nelson, it made it a big focus for the Bills. And I thought the Bills responded well enough. I know they gave up those explosive runs, but they did decent enough in the run game. But it was more of Rivers' ability to carve us up in the short to intermediate and the big plays from the passing game that really led to a lot of Indianapolis ball movement.
Yeah, and it's the game plan overall. We're starting from the top. They controlled the game with tempo. Their scheme was so good. All the plays and formation looked very similar. Everything was tied in. I liked how the Charles Davis, I believe, said it, how the first drive, they tested him inside, the Bills defense inside. Then on the next drive, it was outside runs. Obviously, it kept the Bills defense on their toes while they're making adjustments how to stop these inside runs. They're immediately going on to on the next drive, going on to a different plan of attack. So they tried staying ahead of the Bills defense every drive. And I mean, we talk about field position. That was one of the big things in this game. And the Bills' average field position was the 15-yard line. Colts was the 30. I mean, in the first half, the drives for the Bills started at the 3, the 15, the 11, 6, and 4. As an so offense, bad. That's so bad. That's hard to get. Making the Bills' offense is explosive. Don't get me wrong, but having to drive the field that often, that in that distance, it's very difficult. So everything was going according to plan, game plan. When you talk about the Colts, especially on the offensive side of the ball, special teams, and even early on the defensive side, like you said, and it was just one of those things where okay, everything went well, but the Bills were still up at halftime.
Yeah, that was such a huge turning point, those 2 drives at the end of the first half, which we're going to diagram and break down in a bit here on the film room. But I almost feel for Indianapolis. I feel kind of bad for them because, again, to your point, they came in and executed what they wanted. They had the ball for over 34 minutes. The Bills had it for 25. You and I were talking about this offline, their ability to let the play clock run down on seemingly every play. I know a lot of Bills fans were clamoring for those delay of game calls.
Every play, man.
Because they got so close, but that was by design, and they were stringing together these 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-minute long drives, drive after drive. They were 9 of 17 on third down, which is 52.9%, which would have been the best in the NFL for the entire regular season if that was the trend. Bills were number 1 at 49. They maintained field position. They didn't give up big plays on defense against the Bills offense. They were able to run the ball a little bit to get things started and then work things in the short and intermediate and get yards after catch. They didn't turn the ball over. They did everything that you would think they would have wanted to do, but there were a handful of critical plays that either the Bills made or that went in the Bills' favor that changed the trajectory of this game and led to the Buffalo Bills winning. And you hit it on the head when you and I were talking offline. Josh Allen played a massive role in that game and kind of tilting things for the Bills. But yeah, the Colts almost hit on arguably all cylinders in making things go their way. And it's just unfortunate for them that they weren't able to come away with the win because they played a heck of a game and they executed really well with their game plan.
Right. And so we're going to start on the defensive side of the ball, kind of like we've been alluding to. And Clifford makes a great point here about Rivers. And it really reminded me of, the quote Micah Hyde said after the game, how, Rivers is a true pro. When you think of a pro quarterback, that's him right there. He was making checks, facilitating the whole offense, every snap, making checks, calling stuff out, calling routes out. He's a hell of a player. His veteran experience, his games against this defense, we saw it a couple of years ago where he diced up the Bills defense. He was just in tune to not just his offense, but the details of the Bills defense, their spacing, how they spin, how, specific situations. He was really in tune to that. And, Jordan Poyer said that this in the film room that we did this afternoon, that he's happy he doesn't have to play this guy because the experience that he has, and his ability to get them into the proper run or pass plays, it really made the difference in this game. And then you add in just his, maybe he's not the most athletic guy anymore. He definitely isn't. I won't say maybe. He definitely isn't. I'm not going to even oversell that. He isn't. But there are different ways to win as a quarterback, and he wins with it from the shoulders up. He wins with his anticipation. He wins with, touch that he has on some of these throws over the second level, over defenders, to his bigger receivers, which one of the things I thought he did really well was maximize the catch radius of his tight ends, Doyle, Ali Cox, Michael Pittman, like where he was putting it. A lot of times were the only place that his guy could catch it.
Yeah, he came as advertised in this game. I think there are certain perceptions about Phillip Rivers, and it's easy to make those perceptions that, he's easy to get off his spot or he's just a sitting duck back there behind the line. But you got to think, for as long as this guy has been in the league and as successful as he's been, and he's never had the strongest arm, and he's never been the most mobile, and that's even more so now. He's only lost arm strength, and he's only less mobile now. But exactly to your point, he's so smart in the mental aspects and his pre and post snap reads and his decision making, the way he can throw with anticipation, how surgical he can be with his accuracy. And that was on point. Like you said, he had a couple throws that were just so infuriating because the coverage was good. Like there were plays that Indianapolis schemed really well and there were guys just running wide open, but there were also some throws where Poyer was in good coverage and Hyde was in good coverage, or Milano was right there. And he would just put the ball in this perfect spot that was just so pinpoint, as if he like walked up there and then handed it to his receiver or tight end right into their hands.
Yeah.
And he executed like he had for a lot of the year. He had the fifth quickest time to release from snap to throw in the NFL in the regular season, and that was on display again on Sunday. He'd get the ball, he'd hit his step and fire it out. He was great in his pre-snap adjustments. If you go back and watch the film, you'll see a lot of, the Bills doing something and him going to the line and checking and changing protection or changing the call and saying something to Jack Doyle and saying something to Zach Pascal and whispering something to Taylor. And then they bust off, a play for like 12 to 14 yards. And that accuracy, he operated like a veteran quarterback who's been in this league and who knows how to play quarterback. And I think it was easy to kind of write him off as a weakness for the Colts going into this game, but he showed why you can't do that. He played at a high level this year, and in this game, it was a representation and a microcosm of how strong he was really all year for the Colts.
Yeah, and you alluded to it earlier. The Colts offensive line might be the best offensive line that was in the playoffs to start that first round, and they kept him upright. They kept him clean. 78.3% of his dropbacks, he was kept clean according to Pro Football Focus. Completed 61.1% of those passes, 253 yards and 1 touchdown. So, again, he's not the athletic quarterback that Josh Allen is, but he was able to stand in the pocket and win from the shoulders up and extend plays just enough, just by sliding a little bit to his left and placing the ball perfectly. And that offensive line gave the Bills defensive line fits when it came to run and the pass game. And that's something we got to keep an eye on, because as a defensive line, they got very little pressure on Phillip Rivers. And going forward, that's really going to be the storyline week in and week out, because you got to be able to get pressure, especially with 4 on this defense.
Yeah, the Bills defense, that front 4, we talked about it going into the game against the Colts. Well, the defense as a whole, not even just the front 4, but those front 4 need to get home to some degree. And they didn't have the sacks for the regular season stats and numbers, but they generated a good amount of pressure, and they were a highly graded pass rush team. But on Sunday against the Colts, whether it was the scheme ability of the offense or Rivers getting the ball out quick or the quality of the offensive line, they just were not able to really do anything to get into Rivers' face or get him off his spot. And when they did, he was able to kind of navigate in the pocket and slide and use his feet and still make plays. And when we blitzed, he would make us pay on the back end. It was an extremely frustrating day as a Bills fan, and I would imagine even more so for the Bills defense, knowing that it seemed like whatever they moved and whatever chess piece they moved, Phillip Rivers and the Colts offense had an immediate answer, and they countered our counter and took advantage of it time and time again. And it's exactly to your point, as we go forward, you can't have things like that. You got to be able to pressure the quarterback, and especially as we want to go up against these even bigger heavyweights in Baltimore and ideally against Kansas City, who we would see in the AFC Championship, depending on how things go down. You can't let great quarterbacks sit there and pick you apart. And for as good as Rivers is, there's better quarterbacks that we're going to face and better offenses that we're going to face than the Colts. And if we're not able to get some sort of pressure up front, it's going to be tough for the Bills to win on that side of the ball.
Yeah, the other storyline that stood out to me in this game was it was missed tackles, man. It's something that creeps up on the Bills defense every once in a while. And a lot of those explosive plays that you said, I think, like you said, it was 6 explosive runs. Yep. And then I think 5 or 6 explosive passes against the Bills defense. And a lot of these plays were because of missed tackles. Tre'Davious White led with 3 missed tackles, Edmonds with 2, Taryn Johnson with 2. And then it was Vanessa, Milano, Harrison Phillips, and Josh Norman all pitching in some as well.
So everyone.
Yeah, basically the entire defense missed a tackle or 2 against them. And of the 135 yards rushing, 118 of them were after contact. Like, that's a crazy stat. That's not what you want when you talk about the Ravens coming into town. And even, again, if we facing the Chiefs later on, like, the tackling has to be on point. And Jordan Poyer, again, he said it in the film room today. That's going to be one of the number one things. Discipline, eye discipline, sticking to your keys, the angles to the ball, and tackling. Tackling Lamar Jackson is not an easy thing to do. I thought the Bills did a great job of it last year. Did a decent job of containing him and using all 11 guys to get to the ball and rally to the ball. But you can't miss a tackle against him, because as you saw against the Titans, he can take over a game, not just on design runs, but on passes that he scrambles.
Yeah, those improvised plays from Lamar are just as deadly as the design ones for him. And to take it to that Colts game again, there were a handful of plays where Edmonds got into the backfield, or Milano got into the backfield, or someone got into the backfield and was able to get a hand on Taylor, or even a shoulder to some degree. There was the 4th and 1 on the last drive for the Colts. Edmonds gets in there, and I jumped up like, oh my God, we got the stop. And he doesn't wrap up. He just puts his shoulder on Taylor's thighs a little bit and then slides off, and then Taylor falls forward for 2 yards and gets the first. We saw a lot of plays where you thought we had the Colts in the backfield before they were able to get started, and they would just break off a run and take it. And that stat, I mentioned it when you said it, 118 yards after contact is insane. That is a monstrous, astronomical number. And again, Colts offensive line is very good. Jonathan Taylor is very good. Nyheim Hines is a tremendous running back as well for what he offers. But the Baltimore running offense is exotic. It is powerful. It's fast. It's athletic. And as you face them this weekend, and again, ideally, as you hope to go forward, you can't miss tackles like that, especially in a zone-based defense where you got guys that are going to be coming up, whether it's the running game or the passing game. The Bills' defense is designed to keep things in front of them that come up and make plays on the ball, whether in the air or whether when the ball is in someone's hands. And if you're missing tackles left and right, which was something that plagued this defense earlier in the year when we saw struggles week in and week out, it's disconcerting to see that rear its ugly head in the postseason again, and it hurt Buffalo against the Colts big time.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's definitely something they have to clean up. And again, they're going to have to clean it up fast because the Ravens are coming to the town. And if you watch that game yesterday with the Titans, they're a physical team. They want to dominate up front. And as McDermott always says, it starts in the trenches, and the Bills defensive front really has to get it under control and work on their gap integrity, as we all know, and just tackling, being in the proper spot and making that tackle. We're going to see some of those plays here. And as we mentioned at the top, this is going to be a little different. We're not going to do a full game review. We kind of gave you some points, and those are the things you need to pay attention to. What we're going to focus on, two drives, guys. It's the last two drives by both teams prior to the half, because as we all know, that was their turning point. People have said it in the chat already. That was a turning point. So, Anthony, why don't you give everyone a little context of what happened up until this point, if some people maybe missed some of the game.
So we go into the end of the first half with the Bills and Colts, and the Colts, we're going to take a look at their drive first. The Colts have the ball at this point. It's 10-7 Colts. And up until this point, even though the score is close, Indianapolis has arguably executed flawlessly on their game plan. The Bills offense at this point has had 4 drives. 3 of them have been 3-and-outs. They do get the ball to start the second half, but Indianapolis gets the ball here and they start driving. And this is it's the major point in the game. It's the turning point in the game, because as Indianapolis drives down, with how inept the Bills offense had been at this point and how well Indianapolis was executing and how they've been firing on arguably all cylinders, they go down here. And if they can go up 17-7 or even 13-7, they put more points on the board. It increases their momentum. It increases their confidence. And they have a good opportunity here in this drive. They start at their own 41-yard line, again, up 10-7, ready to kind of put their foot on the throat a little bit, and They move the ball up and down on the Bills defense, and they start it really well on this drive here with this first play, this screen to Michael Pittman, where they catch us coming hard on the run fake here to Jonathan Taylor, and we bite, and Pittman kind of takes off to the races a bit.
Yeah, and we talked about John. I appreciate the contribution there, your donation, man. It's obviously you're a guy that's in here every week with us. You're a very loyal supporter of all of our shows, man. He's such a good dude. I mean, he's sending me messages and DMs all the time about how much he loves the Bills and our content. And I mean, we couldn't thank you enough, man. That's very much appreciated on your behalf, man. Thank you.
For sure.
And we talked about they schemed up the Bills defense, and right on this drive, the first play, they get this screen, they catch the Bills in a blitz in a man coverage, and the pass goes to the top of the screen to Pittman, and the Bills are in man coverage. So now you have Milano, who's a slot player against the tight end, and Trey White, basically the only guys into the boundary there. They get really good blocking, and the missed tackle from Trey White in the alley, and you get Pittman on an explosive play on the first play of this drive. So it's already not looking good. You saw the field position. It was very good.
No, and it's not a good start to this drive for the Bills defense. And you see that run fake, and the Bills bite hard on that run fake. 5 defenders are already in the backfield ready to take Rivers. And then it's kind of like those Looney Tunes scenario with that, and then you're like, oh no. And Trey has the opportunity right here. He closes down, he goes low, and he just gets air. That could have held the play to a 9 or 10-yard gain. Indy probably gets the first down, but that's a massive missed tackle, and you can't have that from one of the best players on your defense. And then Hyde takes an angle, and he kind of gets cut off by Taylor, who's blocking downfield.
Yeah.
And it's a good microcosm there of what the Colts were doing. It's also that schemability that we talked about, because the Colts knew that the Bills knew they had to stop the run. So they take advantage of the Bills' aggressiveness in trying to stop that run with that run fake, and Rivers swings it out to Pittman, who makes a good play. But that missed tackle here right there by Trey White is so huge.
Yeah, I mean, first down, first play of the drive, you want to keep them behind the chains. It's something the Bills like to do. They like to send a lot of run blitzes, whether it's Taryn Johnson off the edge or their safeties. They like to do it, and it really, again, they were just in tune to what the Bills are doing. And here is a really nice play from Jordan Poyer. So you see him right over here on the right side of the screen. They're going to run orbit motion with Pittman right here, out back behind the tailback, and they're just going to run a little split zone. So the tight end's coming across the formation, and I mean, talk about reading your keys and clicking and close and staying over the top of the block. Watch Poyer just boom, reads his keys. Tight end's coming across the formation. I'm getting downhill. I'm having him take me to the ball. He fills right there and makes a tackle on Jonathan Taylor, and it puts them behind the sticks on that play.
Yeah, Poyer, who's been one of our best players all year, somebody who consistently gets snubbed for Pro Bowls and All Pros and all these awards and accolades. Such a great play here, and it's the recognition that does it for you. As soon as this ball is snapped, he knows his reads, he knows his key, and watch him avoid Pascal, who's trying to cut him down and get a piece of him. Poyer immediately front sides him, gets right around, shoots the gap, shoots his gun, gets in the backfield, and he stops Taylor for a 2-yard loss here on this play. And it was plays like this when we were able to get into the backfield. You got to make the tackle, and Poyer does. He gets in, he breaks down, and he tackles somebody who's had a very strong year. It's something I think that gets lost in the grand scheme of the whole game, but it's a great play by Poyer, just recognizing and shooting the gap.
Yeah, it was. It's something him and Taryn Johnson when they're on their game and they're in tune to their keys, they get downhill. So 2nd and 12 now. So this is a drive concept to and completion to Doyle, and it's a play that Jordan Poyer and I talked about in our film room this afternoon. And again, Philip Rivers at the line of scrimmage. Okay, get a little motion and watch what that little motion does. So you have the bunch formation to the bottom here. That motion, watch what it does to Trey White. Right here, you see him jump up onto the line of scrimmage. You have Taryn Johnson traveling with that guy. So it appears to be man coverage, especially when you talk about Poyer being down here on the tight end. So it's looking like man coverage. And so Rivers gets to the line of scrimmage, kind of changes the play and sets a protection. And I mean, again, it was one of those plays. Rivers was just in tune to what the Bills wanted to do. Get a little play action and a physical route by Doyle here. So the drive concept is basically this. You have a vertical in-breaking route by one of the receivers, and then a drive across the middle. And it's one of those routes where that guy's going to continue across the middle. And if this hook to curl defender, say it's a linebacker right here, if he were to expand this way, he would sit right there. He would sit in that hook to curl area. But as you can see here, the target against man coverage was Jack Doyle, and Doyle does a great job of getting his body into Poyer there and separating. And again, it was the throw by Philip Rivers and just getting them into this play, getting them into a mismatch size-wise of Doyle versus Poyer. Doyle and Cox had really good days against the Bills safeties, and some of it was scheme, some of it was just overpowering those guys at the collision point.
Yeah, this play is a perfect one to show what the Colts did to us. You get that pre-snap adjustment from Rivers, and he knows what's going on. He recognizes the coverage. He knows what he has. Doyle gets that free release. I really want to highlight, you mentioned it, the physicality of Doyle. He gets that free release, and he comes off, and he just leans on Poyer, literally. Yeah. And then as he gets to the top of the stem, just separates, and he doesn't create a lot of separation, but he creates just enough to give Rivers a bit of a window. Boom, creates, separates, and Rivers makes a good throw over some underneath coverage right into Doyle's hands. And again, this isn't terrible coverage from Poyer. It's just a really good throw, a really good route, and you also see that good footwork and pocket presence from Philip Rivers there that you highlighted. Again, not the most fleet of foot, not the most athletic, but he's got good quarterback mechanics and footwork. He's able to slide and maintain his platform and put the ball in a really good spot for Doyle in a route and a concept, that drive concept that you talked about. We saw that drive after drive, no pun intended, and arguably like play after play, the drive and the mesh concepts that Indianapolis Jets kept running and forcing the Bills to be beautifully on point with their communication. Poyer talked about it in your film room episode earlier today. It's not the most complicated of schemes, and it's not the hardest routes to cover, but if your communication is slightly off, you can get beat by this very easily, and the Colts did that again and again.
Yeah, and the drive concept you saw, it's a high-low combination. It's this combination right here, and the higher option or the high portion of the high-low is that in-breaking route right here by the Ali Cox, and he's the one that, again, he's up against the safety. He's up against Micah Hyde here, and I just like this play design from the top because it's that drive concept. You have those two routes, the high and low concept, but also if it's man coverage, he also has the mesh concept right here, the two crossing routes over the middle if you want that rub route to take place. But again, 3rd and 2 situation, Rivers maximizes his target, maximizes Cox's size and ability against Micah Hyde here by throwing it up and over. And Hyde, you know what? You can't get better coverage from Hyde on this play. He was in the guy's pocket. He was in front of him. He undercut it. It just the throw and anticipation by Rivers on this 3rd and 2 play to throw up and over the traffic in the middle of the linebackers and the linebacker Milano, Edmonds, and Johnson at that second level. Just a really good location for his target, Cox, there at the second level.
This play infuriates me like no other. I rewound this over and over looking at the all-22. First off, to start with your point, it's such a great concept and play call for a 3rd down and 2 like this play is, because Rivers, it's got a high probability of success. Rivers can dunk it down to one of the crossers over the middle and get the first down by a yard or 2, or if he sees something deeper downfield, he can get a chunk play like he does on this. And leave that frozen right there. Go back a little bit, right to when Cox catches it right there. Micah Hyde. So this is right when Cox catches the ball. Micah Hyde is in such good coverage that you can't even see Micah Hyde on this still shot. That's how close he is and how much he's in the pocket of Mo Alley Cox. And look at that ball placement. This is surgical, dime level placement.
Throw him open. He threw him
Beautiful. Throw him open, and it hits on what you said earlier, taking advantage of the catch radius of your weapons. He puts it in a spot that is advantageous to Alley Cox and not to Hyde. And if you watched it on the broadcast when they highlighted it and they slowed it down, this ball just goes through the outstretched fingertips of Micah Hyde. It's unreal ball placement from Philip Rivers. He anticipates it. He sees it. He reads it. Again, there's not a lot of separation, and he has to throw it over the underneath guys in the trash down low.
Right.
And we don't get there on the rush, and he makes a beautiful throw. It's unreal. Great throw, great catch.
Yeah, and you see Addison on the right side of the screen. He gets the high side of Philip Rivers, but Rivers just buys time, by climbing just a little bit. He hitches slightly, and this is a really nice high-low rush. It's probably, I don't know if it counted as a pressure, but you see Addison going for the high side, and then you see the power rush from Jerry Hughes pushing in that offensive lineman into his face. So they're trying to squeeze the pocket high-low here, but Rivers does a good job just stepping up and then throwing Cox open there. Just a really nice play from him, man. I'm with you, man. I had to watch it several times to really appreciate it, because I couldn't believe that Hyde didn't pick it off. And if Cox for some reason doesn't see it or doesn't track it well and it goes off his hands because it was a little back shoulder, Jordan Poyer is there sitting there possibly for an interception. So many things were going right for this offense of the Colts, and a lot of that is, again, Rivers, that experience and putting them in the proper place. So now it's a 1st and 4 situation. It's a shovel pass to Trey Burton off the right side here. 3:15 on the clock at the end of the second quarter. And this is when Milano talked about after the game, like they asked him about this drive, and he's like, I made a couple good tackles in the red zone. He was being very, very modest about it, but he's right. So watch him work through trash here on the right side of the screen. Again, think about this man coverage. He's got to work through this traffic. They have some eye candy going this way, and they have obviously a pulling guard. The near guard is pulling, and just watch Milano process this. So here comes Nelson on the snap. He's pulling. Here comes Burton inside. Look at the tracking by Milano. Look at him get inside and make the tackle on Burton. Just a great job by him, man. I just love watching him work through traffic. You see him look out ahead of the play. Like, what am I looking at? Is there someone scooping in the next level? Is there someone down blocking at the next level on me? No, I'm going to shoot my gap there, and just does a great job of staying with his guy in man coverage in the red zone.
Yeah, it's a really good fit from Milano here, and a good job by him to not get lost in the traffic and trash that he has to go through. We've seen this shovel pass, this play from a variety of the teams in the NFL. The Chiefs do it a lot. It's got a high success rate. The Eagles did it a lot in their Super Bowl run, and Burton's a really good guy for that. But if the defense keys on their fundamentals and their reads, it can be stopped. And this is a big one. This is one that, again, you could have taken advantage of the Bills' aggressiveness there. You see Daryl Johnson there on the outside. He just flies right upfield. And if the rest of the defense is operating like that, this is one of those plays that it's a touchdown in a second and a half because you take advantage of that aggressiveness. But Milano stays home, follows his man beautifully. Poyer also does a good job too. There's not really anywhere for Burton to go. If you stop right there, it's filled. Jefferson does a good job at the point of attack.
Yeah, let's talk about him real quick. Let's talk about him because again, you're getting a pull right here, and that is adding a gap to the left side of the screen. So the assignment for, you talk about run gap integrity, the assignments for the play side guys there, such as Jefferson, changes. You see him shoot that B gap, but then he sees that guard coming, so he's got to contain the play there. So he spins back outside.
He spins off.
Yeah, it takes outside leverage there, forces Burton up inside to where? Traffic. boxed in. Like, this is good, sound red zone defense, something that the Bills are going to have to bring against Lamar Jackson and that offense that the Ravens run, especially in the red zone. It's all about gap discipline. It's all about tracking the ball and tracking your man, and just a phenomenal job by Milano on this play.
Yeah, Milano cleans it up, but I'm really glad you highlighted what Jefferson did there. For him to spin off that block and switch gaps and still maintain integrity and force the play another way, he's been strong down the stretch. And it's encouraging to see plays like that in this game, to know that the Bills have this potential and they're going to need to have it and execute on it again against a team like Baltimore, who has a lot of movement. They have a lot of pulls. They have a lot of combo blocks. You need to be on top of your game when it comes to your gap integrity. You need to be on top of your game when it comes to your play recognition and your processing ability. Again, I don't think people really realize how it's hard enough to make that play if you're Quentin Jefferson, but he does it in real time in like a half a second.
Yeah.
He meets his man, recognizes the pull, spins off of it, forces the play back inside, and Milano and the rest of the defense execute there. That's good team defense. That's good team football, funneling the play to your help, to your support, to your structure. And again, it's what's going to be needed as the Bills face Baltimore this weekend, because you have to have good help defense. You have to play team defense. You have to, everybody, like 11 hats flying to the football, take advantage of it. Thank you, Joe. Smash that like. Let's get this out there to more fans. Appreciate the support. Yeah, you got to get everybody flowing to the ball like this play here, and it was really well done. And this one, I know that the Colts still got 2 yards on this play, but this set the tone for this goal line stand here of the Bills got worked going down the field, but they toughened up and they stiffened up here in the red zone.
Yeah, and those tackles, Zimmers, the Jeffersons, the Ed Olivers, those guys may not be the anchors that you want, not the guys that can occupy two guys. But if you're disruptive like this is what he's known for. This is why they got him. He's disruptive. He's not a guy that you want anchoring versus double teams and combos, but you want him being disruptive like this. He occupies two by being disruptive in his own way. So there are different ways to win, and that was one of them. So now they're in the 2-minute warning, and so they have a third time to discuss the 3rd and 4th down situation here. This is 2nd and goal. So after this play, so 2nd and goal, 2:36 on the clock, and it's another play again. Milano avoids the trash on this play. Just watch him work through this, and look how close to the line of scrimmage he is. Just imagine and picture how quickly these plays are unfolding. And this is a play where they have Hines in as taking the direct snap. They're having a counter tray look coming right at Milano, right at the point of attack. Hines is faking it to Jonathan Taylor on the wide zone or outside perimeter run there. And just the hands by Milano working through that trash. You see a nice job and read by Epinesa of spilling this play, which means he's slanting inside and he's taking on that puller and he's forcing that guy to bounce rather than to just get up inside. So he is spilling that play and he's spilling it to his teammates there, especially Milano, and just a good job at the point of attack. So you see Milano make the tackle here, and this obviously keeps the clock running in the 3rd down situation. But again, this is the play leading into the 2-minute warning. So it gives the Colts time. So they're still in good shape after this run, but if Milano doesn't make these 2 plays, I mean, who knows where this game, ends up at the end of this first half.
Yeah, strong plays from Milano that add a lot. And I think the play that gets highlighted is the 4th down incompletion that we're going to take a look at. But this is such a great play from Milano. And Epinesa is the one that really highlighted it for me. You started on it. The way he spills this and he sees the down block from the tackle, immediately gets inside, gets leverage, closes up that hole, and forces Hines to jump to another gap. And look at, I'm glad you froze it right there. Milano, textbook.
Low man wins.
For a guy, low man wins. Beautiful. For a guy who was maligned in his tackling last year and who missed some tackles, he gets in the hole, he gets low, good form tackle, gets lower than Hines, which isn't easy because Hines is a small back and he's got good burst and he's got good power and short yardage and good speed. He is explosive. So this is a good situation for Indianapolis. You only need 2 yards, good blocking, give Hines the ball, let him gain some momentum, and Milano meets him in the hole and sticks him in the hole. There's no fall forward. He sticks him, holds him up, and then again, what do we see? The rest of the Bills defense, he gets some support, they fly to the ball, and they take down Hines and get the stop here. I don't know which I like better on this play, the fill and the low man execution from Milano, or that crash there by Epinesa to
Beautiful.
just read it and get down and gum up the works and blow this up to meet that pulling guard so quick. I love it. As soon as he sees the tackle, boom, he's down, crashes, shoulder, works under, gets the leverage. Hines, as soon as he finishes this run fake, he wants to get upfield, and he starts to go straight up, and then he sees Epinesa, and he's like, nope. I have to bounce it to the next hole, and there's Milano to meet him. Again, team defense, everybody flowing to the football in unison, really encouraging to see, and a really strong play.
Yes, and you said team defense. This is something, again, this is why we're breaking it down. There's so many good storylines to these drives. This is basically, think about Lamar Jackson. These are the type of plays that the Ravens run. And look how sound and ready Hyde and this defense are. Epinesa, Milano, White even coming down there. They're ready for these plays, these, direct snaps, these type of power reads, counter trays with, Lamar Jackson. And it's, again, I said that the Bills did a decent job against Lamar last year. It's because of plays like this where they were sound defensively, they were gap sound, but they're also assignment sound and what guy they have. And everyone was on point in their execution on this play.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost in the sauce a little bit with Wildcats and misdirection and pre-snap motion and all these things. In Baltimore, they do a really good job with that. And no disrespect to Nyheim Hines, but Lamar is a different kind of weapon when he's running those similar things. And a great point there from John, Zimmer versus Nelson on that play right there. Yeah, Zimmer sticks his man, helps gum up the works. Again, it's a holistic effort from the defense there. And you see Zimmer, he doesn't get pushed off. Yeah. He sets the line and look at him. Quentin Nelson is an all-pro guard, one of the best. And he sticks him and he gets underneath him. And then he starts to drive him back, uses that leverage and pushes him back right into the play and actually knocks him right off. Yeah, it's a great job by
good eyes, man. Well good film study there. Like that play side hand is everything. Again, they're not the most they're not the biggest guys, the defensive tackles for the Bills, but if you play with this leverage and you play with that hand placement and strength, like that's a great play. Good eye, John. That was good because I was focused on other things. That was a great point against Nelson by Zimmer there, and that's why a guy like him is inserted in a lineup. You're making plays like that, and plays that a lot of people. I didn't see that on a broadcast.
No,
but that's right here.
That's something you need. Again, you hit on it. When you're playing the Ravens and what they're going to do, you need everybody doing everything. You need guys to do the dirty work and things that might not show up on film. And again, even us, experienced film breaker downers that we are, we're going through and seeing what Epinesa did and what Milano did. And Zimmer's over there making a really quality play right there. And there's the comment from Eric, glad you called out Zimmer, super under the radar contributor. Yeah, he has been since you are learned, John. Well done. Yeah, Zimmer, since he's been called up, has been an effective player and an impact guy. And you need everybody doing, all jokes aside and all corniness aside, you need everybody doing their 1/11th in order to get the victory and make plays. And that was a great example there.
Right. So now it's a 3rd and 1 play. It's a crack toss to Jonathan Taylor into the boundary. And again, the Colts had time to think about their 3rd and 4th down options here, right? So there's a good chance they were going to go for it. This is why they call this play into the boundary. They throw a little pitch out. You get a down block right here at the point of attack so that the left tackle can pull. And Trey White does a great job of boxing this play in. That puller tries cutting White. White leads with his hands, disengages right there. And you see Taryn Johnson just fill that alley. He's the force player. He's got to make that tackle. He plays outside in, gets his head across the running back there and wraps him up. And then everyone gets to the ball. I mean, everyone is rallying to the ball. You see everyone down the line of scrimmage getting to the ball to stop Jonathan Taylor on 3rd and 1. He takes a loss here. This was another big play in the red zone by the Bills defense.
Yeah, this was huge. Taylor gets stopped for a 3-yard loss here. And it starts with, as soon as we get the snap, it starts with, you're reading my mind here. It starts with Addison. He gets upfield right away and fights through the crack and makes Taylor have to take a wider route to the outside on this toss than he wants to. Trey does an amazing job fighting off that block on the outside and shedding. But Taryn Johnson, just shoots, gets physical, comes up and run support. We make the joke all the time that he's basically like another linebacker. And I saw someone in the chat asking, why are they in nickel? This is why they're nickel. They're nickel. Exactly. He did play inside out there. This is why they're a nickel, because Taryn Johnson is good in run support. We highlighted it in last week's film, breaking down the Week 17 matchup against Miami. This is such a good example. I know he's got Trey there in support. I know he's got some help coming from the inside, but this is kind of like an open field tackle. He reads it. He doesn't get caught up in any of the garbage. He plants his foot there after he calls out the motion.
And that's what they want to do. They want him to bump over with the motion and get caught in traffic, and he does a good job avoiding that. That's what's awesome about it.
They're playing mind games like they had all game. He sees it, plants, comes back, doesn't get caught up, and this is one-on-one at this point. It's Taryn Johnson versus Jonathan Taylor, a guy who's been crushing it in December. And I love your point on the form tackle there. He gets the head across the body, gets almost 3/4 of his body onto Taylor. So worst case scenario, even if he doesn't bring him down, he's going to slow him up a significant amount, but he halts his progress almost completely. Trey comes there for the cleanup. The rest of the defense comes there for the cleanup. And Addison, Taryn, and Trey White on that play, just really quality stuff. And a great point there from Cliff. Thank you for your donation and your comment as well. This whole sequence, you guys are beautifully breaking down, may vault the Bills to the Super Bowl. Seriously, it was that big. I made a note in my notes for this. I thought this was the biggest play of the drive. I recognize the 4th down incompletion, but this could have easily been a touchdown with how the Colts have been moving the ball on us, and it takes a very good effort.
And this is a play that has plagued the Bills all season. They're up and down. You know, some of the games they're able to stop these perimeter runs, those crack tosses. Some games they're not getting a guy like Mario Addison up the field to kind of make that running back bubble to give the defenders that are in pursuit time to get over the top. So this is a play that a lot of teams have on film against the Bills or in their game plan against the Bills because they have struggled on perimeter runs. They've led a lot of explosive plays on these crack tosses. And again, Taryn Johnson is that, linebacker type player that is in. And since the Arizona game, he's a guy that's been on the field against 12 personnel when they used to go to Dean Marlowe and, that Buffalo nickel look. Now they said, no, we're going to keep Taryn Johnson in because of plays like that, because he can fill it just like a linebacker can, but he's also obviously very in tune to the coverage side of their defense. He's the one that is calling a lot of coverages. Here's one play, 4th and 4. He's the one that is at the bottom of the screen at the point right here. He is telling the defenders behind him, his teammates, what coverage they're going to run, because there are different ways to defend bunch here. And you'll see on this play, Pittman's coming across from the number 1 spot at the bottom. He's coming across on that mesh concept. And this is a play where if he scores this, if he catches this, this is a different game, I believe. It's that mesh concept. You see him come across the middle and then extend it, get depth into the end zone here. And man, I think Jordan Poyer was expecting a little help from Milano here. As we talked about in that breakdown, Milano's kind of sleeping on this play, and Pittman almost catches it. Thank God he doesn't, because this would have changed the game.
Yeah, if the Colts score here and they go up 17-7, I'm not saying the Bills don't still come down and answer with the touchdown, but even if they do, you're going into halftime down 3 instead of up 4. It ends up being a 14-point swing with the points they left on the board and what the Bills ended up doing, going down and scoring. But this is I know it's an incompletion, but it's a great play design from the Colts to get Pittman open. You showed that mesh concept, but he drags Poyer across this entire field, and Poyer has to avoid trash after trash. And if you go back a little bit and highlight a little more, boom, right there. Zach Pascal right in the middle of the field. He's got Trey White on him. Boom, there's Pascal. This whole play is designed to get Pittman open on the backside there. Pascal is coming across the middle, and he's throwing that natural pick, which is really a purposeful pick. He's not trying to hit Poyer and draw a flag, but he's trying to get in the way. As soon as Pascal comes across the field, he eyes up Poyer and tries to get in his way. And Poyer has to keep fighting through. And Pittman, as you're highlighting right here, does a really good job seeing Milano being stationary, adjusts his route a little bit, and gets more upfield. Rivers identifies it, continues to shuffle and do his little footwork shimmy, and then puts it in a really good spot, and it's just slightly off. Again, it's what we talked about earlier. The Colts, They executed. They had a good game plan, but there were several plays that either the Bills made or the Colts didn't make that turned this game. And this is one. The Colts were off right with just a hair of inaccuracy. And it's the difference between coming away with 0 versus coming away with 7. And it is honestly on that play, it's good enough coverage by Poyer. It's hard to track a good receiver all the way across the field.
Right, for that long.
For that long. And you're fighting through opposing players and your own players. You're trying not to get lost. You're trying not to get chipped. You're trying not to get picked. Colts have a player in Pascal who's literally trying to get in Poyer's way. It was a really good play design, really good play concept. The Colts just don't hit on it, and they come away with no points. And that is such a massive thing. They're all of a sudden leaving points on the board, and the Bills get the ball, even though they're on their own 4-yard line, but they feel like they have some new life.
Yeah, and obviously the Bills take over there and they start their drive. We're going to get to that. So let's talk about the offense now. Let's switch gears now that we're going to break down the offensive drive. And I thought that Josh Allen was, of course, the star of the drive, but I think Gabriel Davis really, his 2 catches along the sidelines were really the difference makers in this entire game. I think if he doesn't catch those, I think the Bills may go on to lose. I think they were that important. A drive to the drive and to the Bills touchdown on that drive. It was a game where the Colts, of course, they played a lot of their 2 deep. I thought their linebackers, especially Darius Leonard, did a great job of controlling the middle of the field. And you guys got to remember, Darius Leonard is one heck of an athlete. I remember seeing him down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile and just watching his fluidity. And the thing that's underrated about him is his length. He has like 34.5-inch arms too. And so very much like Tremaine Edmonds for the Bills, he is in those passing lanes, whether it's in the 7 to 10 yard range or even down the field when they're running their, Tampa 2 or quarters type looks. And I think that he did a great job of controlling the middle of the field when Josh wanted to push it down the field. And I thought when it came to Brian Daboll, a lot of people were dinging him for how many runs he called. I don't know, man. I think if he didn't call some of those runs and Josh didn't use his legs as often as he did, I don't know if the Bills win this game. They had essentially no rushing game. And I think Daboll understood what he was up against, a very good defense, a defense whose the defensive front was probably going to control the Bills, which they did. And I think he emptied the playbook by being very aggressive, which included a lot of Josh Allen runs.
Yeah, he had to adjust and do something to attack this Colts defense. Again, this Colts defense, this Colts team, we talked about it in the lead-in for this. They're a good quality football team. DeForest Buckner, all-pro on the defensive line. Darius Leonard, all-pro at linebacker, arguably the best linebacker in the NFL. Well, that's a good comment there from Sean. Leonard said he wanted to show the Bills we made the wrong pick passing on him. Leonard also had some words for Aaron Rodgers when Rodgers talked about Fred Warner being the best linebacker in the NFL, and Leonard took exception to that. And then we saw the Colts come out and shut down the Packers in a game, shut the Packers down in the second half, and the Colts ended up beating Green Bay. We've seen the athleticism of this Colts defense on display, and you hit it right on the head. They're linebackers with Leonard and Okereke and Walker being able to get in the passing lanes. They're a fast defense. They're an athletic defense. They are a well-coached defense with Matt Eberflus. They're a team that they identify what they want. They know what they want, and they bring in players that fit their scheme and fit what they're going to do, combined with the fact that those players are also just good football players. They're a good team, and they were able to stymie the Bills. Again, going into this drive, the Bills had 4 drives prior to this. They had 1 touchdown. They had 3 3-and-outs. They had multiple 3rd and shorts, 2nd and shorts, where they were unable to get 1 yard or 2 yards. They had a 2nd and 2 where they couldn't get any yards, and they couldn't get a first down on 3rd and 1. The Colts were good with their gap integrity. They play good, sound, fundamental football, and they combine it with athleticism and speed, and of course rely on their technique, and they made life difficult. And there were several plays on this drive that we're going to look at, mainly from Gabe Davis and from Josh Allen, where the Colts had things locked up, and it took some ridiculous throws and catches for the Colts defense to get beat. I mean, especially, we talked about it last week with Gabe Davis and his ability to track the ball and make plays that are just unreal for anybody, let alone a rookie. And he did it again in this game. He turned this game on his head. This drive was huge.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought Dable did a great job when it came to giving Josh options. He had a lot of check with me plays where he'd give him 2 plays, let him decide at the line of scrimmage based on the box count, based on the leverage of a corner or a slot corner. RPOs, we saw a bunch of those, and those were kind of the plays where you saw Josh throw those slants to Beasley over the middle. I thought Beasley's limitation definitely hurt the Bills as well, and played to the strengths of Darius Leonard and Okereke at linebacker. They took away a lot of his option routes. And so I think what Dable did is he said, you know what, I expect a lot of too high looks. I expect a lot of light boxes, which Josh Allen and the Bills saw. And he gave Josh the ability to run QB draws, run, quarterbacks power sweeps against 5-man boxes. Like if any offensive coordinator wants to get a head coaching job, like getting a run game going against a 5-man box is the easy way to do that. If you can scheme up 5-man boxes on every other play, like that is a good thing. And the Bills just couldn't execute up front with their offensive line. So those advantageous run numbers were there, and the Colts were daring him to do it. And the Buckners and Muhammad's and Justin Houston, they were just out physicaling. I know not a good word, but they were just beating them up front. And I think that worries me going into this Ravens game. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I want to get your thoughts on Dable, because I know, again, a lot of people are talking about his play calling and decision making from this game.
I liked what he did. I liked how he adjusted. I talked about it on Disguised Coverage last week. The Bills' offense's ability we started out earlier in the year, and it was good adjustments from week to week and opponent to opponent. Right. But what we started to see as the season progresses, we saw more, not smaller scale in terms of importance, but smaller in terms of more immediate adjustments from the Bills offense. We started to see adjustments from half to half, and then quarter to quarter, and then drive to drive. The Miami game that we broke down last week was a really good example of how the first couple drives weren't working, and then the Bills decided, okay, let's attack Miami with the short passing game. And then the next drive, they anticipated that, and they attacked them with the intermediate with some deep throws. And then the third drive, they went deeper. They built on the successes they had, and they started to play that chess game with Miami. And I liked what Dable did in this game. I was watching this game with my dad, and he keyed in on it right away when Allen started running the ball. The Colts defensive front, because they don't blitz a lot, they were the second least blitzing team in the NFL in the regular season. And they were the second best team against the run in the regular season. So it's hard to run on them, and they don't blitz a lot. They play good coverage in the back. I think Dable saw that and saw that the Colts rushing, when they were going for Allen, they were going hard upfield. And the middle, there were rush lanes that were being vacated, and Allen had space. And what we started to see on this drive, we started to see some QB draws, and we started to see, exactly to your point, more plays that took advantage of those light boxes and said, okay, if you guys are going to go that hard to try and guard our empty sets and guard our receivers, that's fine. Let's give Josh some design runs or some pass plays that will leave some underneath room for Josh to scramble and make a play with his arm still, or run and get some yards. And that's a good comment there from Clifford. It's silly at this point to question Dable if you can't trust him because you believe Josh's 350 and 4 TDs is the only way. It's short-sighted. Yeah, he's someone who I think has gotten creative when he had to. You mentioned it in our lead up, and when we talked about this, and in our notes, I think he emptied the playbook and he got aggressive and took advantage of what was happening in that game and what he saw. And that's what you need. You need somebody who is going to be able to be like, all right, you know what? This isn't working. Let's scrap it. Let's go do this. Oh, that didn't work. Let's change. Let's do this. And he's good at adjusting and countering the counters and making those in-game adjustments. I liked what he did in this game. And I think this drive is a good evolution of that, because we start to see those QB draws and QB runs to take advantage of the light boxes and the upfield rush that the Colts were using.
Yeah, and I know Frank Reich after the game said was asked about why he went for it. And one of the things that he said was, well, given the time left on the clock, 1:46, and where the ball was going to be spotted for the Bills, he said, more times than not, the opposing team is going to be conservative. That's not the case anymore. This is Sean McDermott, and he's an aggressive guy. He's got an aggressive quarterback. And on the very first play, with the ball spotted at the 4-yard line, Josh Allen takes on Darius Leonard here with a short in breaking route to Diggs here, but it's dropped. But look at the throw. He's halfway into the end zone, and Diggs runs an in breaking route with Beasley running a little option route, trying to get the attention of Leonard so that in breaking route behind him to Diggs is open, and Josh takes it. And you see Leonard point at Elam, but Allen had him there. If Diggs catches that, that's a big play.
Yeah, that was one that kind of hit me in the gut a little bit because it was a good throw by Allen. It's good coverage by the Colts on the back end. They only rush 4, and Leonard is lined up over Beasley. And
Right.
we see the Bills take advantage of these option routes with Cole Beasley all the time. And I know Cole is hurt, but it's good coverage. You don't see the corner on the outside of the screen here who's over Beasley and kind of influences Josh to make the throw. But Leonard is in the throwing window. He's literally in the throwing window, and that is tremendous placement from Josh. Look at that. Look at the athleticism from Leonard to read Josh Allen's eyes and that vertical, and you see him reach that right arm up to try and get a piece. Look at the length, and he almost gets it, but he does just enough to maybe throw off Diggs' concentration or throw off his eyesight or his eye line to the ball, and it's incomplete. It's unfortunate because you expect Diggs to make that catch, and he has the opportunity to get upfield as soon as he makes that catch, and it could have been a big gain. You're looking at the ball at minimum being on the 25. But again, it's that Colts defense being good in coverage and making you have to make a really good play to be able to beat what they're doing.
Yeah, and they're asking why did he point at Allen. I think Leonard likes to play those mind games. I think he likes to get in the head of the opponent, and for like you said, he makes comments almost on a weekly basis, and he plays with that chip on his shoulder. But let's move on to the next play. This is a five-man pressure from the Colts, and the Bills, when they're backed up and they're in these situations, they like to run flood concepts. If you guys flash back to the very first play against the Steelers in 2019, where Josh threw a deep outbreaking route to Dawson Knox, him on the back hip. Knox caught it and avoided Joe Hayden, who was squatting on that route. This is the same exact play here, but it's a play that Davis, the receiver in the slot there, he runs, again, that deep outbreaking route, but because of that corner, he goes more to like a corner route, and Josh escapes the pocket with the 2 inside linebackers rushing and extends the play, gets outside the pocket. And normally Josh, when a rush is coming like that, normally he'd want to throw a little slight adjustment or a quick out route right here to Singletary, but you saw the edge defender peel off. And if you guys flash back to week 2 against the Dolphins, Kyle Van Noy almost got Josh Allen on this same exact technique by that edge rusher. He dropped it, though. So Josh gets out of the pocket and somehow gets it down the field to Davis, and Davis somehow gets his feet down on this throw.
The previous play was a ridiculously good throw from Josh Allen over Leonard to Diggs, and it gets dropped. This play is a even more ridiculous throw from Josh Allen, but a miraculous catch from Davis. And it starts with that 5-man rush that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. The Colts come here. The key for me on this, so the edge rusher drops out, and then Darius Leonard right there, who so you're showing the edge rusher going out, and there's Darius Leonard. He comes up. Both linebackers come up, but they lose contain almost immediately. Leonard comes up, boom, the outside is wide open. And Josh Allen, as we hear all the time on the weekly broadcast, very good rolling to his right, very good throwing to his right. This end zone angle is even better. Look how much space there is for Josh Allen on the outside because the inside linebackers come up, but then Leonard doesn't shift. For as good of a game Leonard had, and I'm not going to put this play on him because he still chases down Allen, there's so much space for Josh Allen to go through. And look at he throws this ball, and you see that Davis is open. Like, we can see it from this angle, but from the broadcast, it just looked like, okay, he's just throwing it out. But the ball placement, he just flicks it with his elbow and his wrist. But the ball tracking from Gabe Davis is beautiful. Back it up a little bit. He's going across field again.
Yeah.
He senses where the sideline is. He starts chopping his feet. He feels the out of bounds. He doesn't step out. He knows where he is. And as he knows where he is, you just showed it. He hasn't looked down at his feet.
No.
He's watching the ball in the air still with every one of those steps. It's like each of his feet have a brain in addition to his regular brain.
Yeah.
it's unreal. I thought he had no way of catching it when I saw the ball get thrown, and then when he caught it, I was like, he didn't catch that. And then they
Oh,
replayed it, and I
especially
was
with
like,
the
oh my
hat
God.
out right there too. Like the
Yeah,
ref threw his hat. Normally that means he's, he stepped out.
yeah.
Maybe he's not allowed to touch the ball first. But I think that was thrown because of Singletary going out of bounds down the field. But like you said, man, he not at any given point, he does not look down. He does not look down at his feet. He throttles down, and then he just continues to drift upfield because he understands that Josh is going to be throwing it on the run. It's probably going to have velocity. It's probably going to be a little further down the field, but he tracks it so well and obviously makes such a great play. That toe drag swag, as everyone talks about down the sideline. And I think this was one of those plays that if this isn't made, this could play to Frank Reich going for it. If they, for some reason, they move on and eventually have to punt here, that plays to getting a 2-for-1 for the Colts offense here. But no, Davis and Allen, they prevent that.
And you got to think there too, again, to go into what Frank Reich is thinking in his brain. Up until this drive, 4 Bills drives, 3 3-and-outs. And then the Bills are starting on their own 4. So the probability of stopping the Bills and getting the ball back is decently high. Add into the fact that the first play is incomplete. So now it's 2nd and 10.
Yeah.
You got to make a play here. And maybe you run the ball because you're trying to take some time off the clock, but then the Colts can call timeout and you're probably not going to get a lot of yards. If you throw an incomplete pass on this play, on that prior play that we showed, then you're looking at 3rd and 10, 2 incompletions, no time taken off the clock. The Colts can get the ball back and try and score again. I think that was all in Reich's head, and I don't blame him for going for it.
No.
The Colts defense had done everything they needed to up until that point. You're just not banking on Josh Allen making an unreal flick of the wrist throw and Gabe Davis showing ridiculous ball tracking skills and staying in bounds to make a catch.
Yeah, I mean, everything can go according to plan. Like we talked about at the top, everything was going the Colts' way. They had the perfect script and template to beat the Bills. But when Josh, he shows those traits like that, I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. Like you said, there is nothing you can do. It was good defense there. And we're going to move on. So it's a 1st and 10 situation. Now the clock is at 1:33. Here's a dagger concept. So you have that deep in-breaking route by Diggs to the bottom. And then they usually give Beasley the option route in the slot there. And you watch Beasley here, and those 2 defenders kind of, gain depth there. It's enough 2 high coverage or 2 safety coverage deep there. And he just takes it. He just takes the little curl route to Beasley there. And again, that was one of those plays that, the Bills, that's part of their run game. Like those option routes is generally part of the run game. So Josh finally was able to hit Beasley there. It wasn't always there all game. Generally the slot defender and that linebacker, that near linebacker on the logo there usually did a good job in this game, but it was a way for them to, again, get a little more rhythm for Josh, get the ball moving, and get to midfield on a simple pitch and catch.
Yeah, nothing sexy about this play, but really good execution. Good job by Beasley just to throttle down and sit and get the ball and then get a couple extra yards after he makes that catch. But it really comes to Josh Allen for me on this play. Don't do anything crazy. Don't try to go for the big play. Just get yourself a nice 7-yard gain on 1st and 10. Set yourself up in good position for 2nd down. Keep moving the ball. Again, the Bills hadn't had a lot of success other than that one drive against this Colts defense. So take what they're giving you, which is Cole Beasley. He identifies it almost right away. He can see the positioning of the defender, and then he sees where Cole is working to. And Cole, again, he's been the best slot receiver in the NFL this entire year. He reads the coverage, steps down. I love the footwork of Beasley as well. This is what really sells it for me. The way he throttles down, watch him. He pops that left foot outside and then pushes right off to give himself further separation as he pivots from that inside defender. That's a quarterback friendly route right there. And it's so smart from Cole Beasley. I also love that. If we could take that freeze frozen image of Cole Beasley and put it on a shirt, I'd wear it.
Yeah, it's great because you're right. Josh Allen's reading that linebacker. That linebacker has his hips open to Beasley, and he's in a position where he wants to cut off any in-breaking route. Well, the slot defender is the guy that's playing with outside leverage, and he's wanting to take away any of the outbreaking routes. So you see Beasley, he turns inside, and as you said, plants off the left foot and then pivots out towards the slot defender, the nickel defender. So it's really going against everything body language wise that those two defenders are reading, and Josh just gets it to him and we just move on. It's not that big a play, but little details like that make all the difference on a simple pitch and catch like that.
Yeah, again, not sexy, but if you look at it and break down the technique and the details of it, really well executed play. And it continues to set the Bills up going forward because now we're sitting at 2nd and 3 at midfield, continuing to move the ball, continuing to build on this drive and turn things around.
Right. And so it looks like we are at the 1st and 10 situation. No, second. I'm sorry. You're right. 2nd and short here. Clock is running. As you saw at the end of the play, the offensive line, one of the offensive linemen said, we got to get up to the ball, but clock is running. So it's a similar concept. It's a dagger, but this time they have a shallow cross by Diggs at the bottom of the screen. And this is the second reception along the sidelines by Davis. And he comes all the way across the field. Great scramble drill. This is what I like about it. So you have Josh hitting the top of his drop, feeling a little pressure, and he escapes the pocket to his left after avoiding Buckner right there. So he gets out to his left, and just watch these two receivers right here. So this is Davis. You see him, go flat towards the boundary. Then you see, I think it's John Brown kind of become the deep wide receiver there. If I could draw it correctly, he kind of becomes that deep receiver. So good scramble drill rules. Looking back at their quarterback, realizing he needs an outlet. Josh gets to the numbers and then somehow hits Gabriel Davis along the sideline. We'll take a look at it from the end zone angle because, again, this is another one of those plays where the coverage was pretty good against this concept. And Josh is able to escape the pocket from the pressure, roll to his left, and then you see the receivers get in the scramble drill rules. And then the throw is just sublime along the sideline. I don't know how it gets by the Colts defender and into the hands of Gabriel Davis. But as you said before, Davis doesn't even look down. He doesn't. Okay, let's see if he looks at the boundary at all. He doesn't look at the boundary at all.
No, he's putting his hand up like, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. He knows he's using his peripheral vision and he just drags and gets that foot down. Oh, it's beautiful. Back it up a little bit just to show the Allen throw, his ability rolling left, and just the ability to get square enough to the line of scrimmage, square enough to his man to pop his hips a little bit to add some torque and squared effort to this throw and just puts it on the money. It's absolutely beautiful. And then going back further, just flat to the line of scrimmage, flat to his man from the 40 to the 35. That's ridiculous. Off platform, just not in the proper mechanics and throw, but he gets it done. I love the route there from Davis adjusting and realizing what needs to be done. As you go back a little more, when Allen starts to evade the rush and escape, keep going, boom, right there. Davis sees he's got his eyes on Allen, and he sees Allen start to scramble and start to evade, and you can almost see him processing it in his head. All right, boom, I see where Josh is going. Here's what I need to go. And exactly what you said, he doesn't drift. He doesn't get out of position. He stays flat, goes to the opening. He feels the coverage, and just, again, the catch is what we're going to talk about, and the throw is also what we're highlighting. But that mental recognition and understanding from a rookie receiver is tremendous on this play. You've got good coverage from the Colts, and you've got a good rush up front. It's the reason they don't blitz a lot. They get pressure with their front four. They cause havoc, and they're good with their back seven. And there you go. Like, just Allen's.
And that's Darius Leonard right here. This is Darius Leonard that's trying to undercut this. Like, that is Leonard right there, who is just out of reach right there. I mean, that says so much about Davis's speed and separation here. And again, the throw, the velocity on the throw to get it down the field to, right around the 32, 33 yard line. Just, oh my God. Just
because if he doesn't throw with that speed, rewind it a little, look at the closing speed from Leonard. He doesn't have momentum. And then he identifies Davis and kicks it into gear. He almost gets there. He just can't because of the angle and the velocity that Allen throws with, combined with how flat Davis stood. It's unreal. This is another one where you're like, well, he's not going to catch that. And then you saw the replay and you were like, holy cow, he caught it.
Yeah, and we'll move on to the next play. Obviously, the clock is stopped, 1st and 10 situation. Just a scramble from Josh. Again, really good coverage and just a pressure off the right side of the line. I think it's Feliciano gets blown up, and Josh just extends a play and gets out to his right. So not too much to this play, but it was a good job of Josh. If he's going to scramble, he's got to get out of bounds. He can't take a sack here. And you see the pressure over Feliciano. Williams, squeezes down, and it gets into the feet of Feliciano, knocks him over. But good job of Josh just getting out of bounds, getting a few yards, and just mainly stopping the clock there. So not much on that one. So now 2nd and 5 situation and 53 seconds on the clock. It's a play where the Bills motion their running back out into basically a quad set, and Josh is again trying to look to the bottom of the screen, and I think he should have thrown it. I think he looked initially. His first read is generally this guy right here, the running back, Singletary. And for whatever reason, he comes off of it, comes back to it real quick, but doesn't end up throwing it. Ends up throwing it away. Thank God it goes incomplete. But it's a play I thought, maybe Josh had an option to the bottom of the screen, at least one. You saw the running back, and I'm okay with him not trying to throw it to Diggs right here, just because of the defenders in front right there. But it's a play I thought Josh probably could have taken the under route right here to Singletary. But either way, he got rid of it, and the clock stopped.
Yeah, it was nice that he doesn't take the loss or take the negative play, and he's able to get out of it. But I thought the same thing live and then watching the film here. And when you juxtapose it with the throw and the play that he made to Beasley a couple plays before, just taking what the defense gave you, it would have been, he could have done that same thing here. Dump it off to the running back, get yourself 4, maybe 5 yards. The running back also probably gets out of bounds. So you're looking at a 2nd and shorter instead of coming here looking at 2nd and 10, but he evades the rush again. Again, Indianapolis causing problems with just their front 4 and then having good coverage on the back end, showing again why they were a formidable and quality defense all year. But Josh's athleticism at least wins out on this play as he's able to get rid of it and not get called for grounding as well.
Yeah, and so now the Bills are faced with a 3rd and 5 situation. This is a play that the Bills run a lot. They'll stack Knox and the running back in the backfield, and it's just a leverage read for him, and you'll see it unfold here. The defense is kind of toying with him. You see the safety right here. Similar alignment and play, cat and mouse game prior to the snap that Josh Allen and the Bills offense capitalized in the second half. But you see Josh looking at the bottom of the screen. He's doing that. He's trying to use that pump fake. He wants carry as he's in that bail to, again, kind of like Josh has done several times, pay attention to Cole Beasley. Like Beasley's going to run this out route and kind of jump it so that this double move can get behind him. Well, that bail technique from the corner keeps him in a good position to stay over the top, and he doesn't fall for it. So now Josh has nowhere to go. And what does he do? He just quickly gets to his check down. He gets to his outlet, and that's Knox to the top of the screen. Knox runs a little check release, so you'll see him help Darrell Williams right there, tighten that edge, and then release. And Josh just quickly gets to him. And while, Knox doesn't use that stiff arm like we want to see him drop bodies week in and week out, Rhodes does a good job of kind of chopping that down. But ultimately, it was important because Josh got to his check down on 3rd and 5, got the ball to Knox, but Knox got out of bounds, stopped the clock, and set up a 4th and 3 situation. You see the good job right there by Rhodes of, knocking down that stiff arm. But it's still a good job of, okay, my 1st and 2nd reads aren't there to the bottom of the screen. I'm going to get to my outlet as quick as I can. Time's running out. Let's move on to the next play.
Yeah, it's a good match from Josh to just get something out of this play and dump it off to his guy who's good after the catch and Knox and hoping he can make a play. But quality scheme and call from the Colts defense. They're up there showing a 6-man box. They're all on the line of scrimmage, and they're playing mind games, acting like they're going to come, acting like they're going to rush, and then they drop out. And they only end up rushing 4. They have really good coverage on the back end. Again, they're a sound unit fundamentally. They're well coached, and they do a good job. There's not really anywhere to go. Again, you highlighted Beasley and Diggs earlier, what Allen was trying to do with his eyes and where he wants to go. There's nowhere to go. Cole Beasley is covered. Diggs is covered. Brown is covered. Like they don't have anyone, and maybe he can get it to Knox a hair earlier, but that's really starting to nitpick. He makes the only read that he can without trying to force the ball anywhere. And again, I wonder in this one what the call was coming in before. I wonder if they said like, okay, if we get some yards, we're going to go for it on 4th, because that adds to it more for Josh to be like, okay, let me dump it down and just get 2 or 3 because we're going for it on 4th anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. It's something that I'm not sure they haven't disclosed, but it's a great point. But either way, it sets up fourth and short here. It's 43 seconds on the clock. You see Josh go through that pre-snap ritual. He's identifying who the hot routes and sight adjustments are, and he eventually draws the edge defender offside to the bottom of the screen. So you see him right there. He's kind of pointing out, okay, we have 4 down right there, but there's really no one else in the box. So they will have to send at least 2 more to throw it hot because, again, they have 5 offensive linemen. So he's playing all those games as if he's running through a normal play. And his voice inflection draws that defender off. And if you saw from the broadcast, top of the screen, you see a lot of the coaches throwing their playbooks and game plans, because, I mean, that is something that you practice. You practice against this now because of Josh Allen, how good he is at it, and he still is able to draw them off sides.
Yeah, I think this is one of those ones that, like, everybody and their mother knew that he was going to try and draw him off sides, and he still did. There's that still shot of the close-up angle from the sideline of the guy jumping off, and one of the Colts defensive staff just taking off his hat and his headset and slamming it on the ground in frustration. And it's a big play, but it's something that Allen's been doing all year. I love this aspect of Josh Allen's game. Again, things that you can do to show that you are mentally progressing in your ability to play quarterback is almost just as big as your ability to physically do it, and continuing to play mind games, continuing to do things to keep your opponent off balance. And we get the jump and we get a free set of downs.
Yeah, and so we move on to the next play, 32 seconds, 1st and 10 situation, fringe of the red zone. So just outside the red zone, just outside the 20, Daboll loves to take shot plays, and you see basically what it amounts to a cover 0 look, and he does want to throw it down the field on this play. You see what we call the best release from John Brown at the top of the screen. So based on the leverage of that corner, he's going to make the best release. So that he stabs outside, and that kick step from the corner occurs right there. So he kick steps to maintain that leverage. And then you'll see, boom, John Brown gets back inside and runs a similar route to a touchdown that he caught last year against the Dolphins on that, skinny post on that in-breaking route from a shot from Josh Allen. But the pass goes incomplete. Again, shot play down the field. This safety is rotating over the top of Diggs, so he gets the one-on-one look he wants, but they're not able to execute on the back end of this play.
Yeah, you can tell that Josh read the coverage. He knew what he wanted. He knew what he had. It's just an inaccurate throw, and he doesn't get it to the spot that he needs to get it to Brown, although the window is small. And honestly, that's a great play from Isaiah Rodgers. He almost gets that interception. He dives for it. He lays out, but Allen made that read. The throw and the execution of it just isn't there. He had his slot receiver open to the left side of the play, but with his pre-snap identification, he had what he wanted, and I think he had the opportunity to get it to Brown there. Again, he just doesn't execute on this throw.
Yeah, this is one of those alert calls. Hey, we get this type of rotation. We get this kind of look. We're going to throw it on the alert call. And I think that, again, just based on the release of Brown there, I think that's. I mean, they've hit that play several times this year and in prior years. So this is probably one of my favorite play calls from Daboll in this game. So 23 seconds left, 2nd and 10. It's the QB draw. God, think about it. Look where they're at. They have, 2 timeouts in their pocket. They're in an empty set, too high look. Look how many guys are in the box. Basically a 4-man box, 5, maybe 4.5. I'll give you 4.5-man box because of the way this guy's aligned right here. So they have a very advantageous box, and you see Josh just, fake, and then boom, get up the field. 2nd and 10, makes a guy miss. I mean, that's what you want. Like, this is the run game. If they weren't able to get some of these QB draws and scrambles, like, I don't know what you guys want from a coordinator. This is the perfect call from Brian Daboll.
Yeah, it's the thing that really started to clue me in on, okay, Daboll started making his adjustments to what's going on in game. Again, we spoke about it in that lead-in. The Colts front man, their front 4, their rush was getting upfield and in a hurry. And in this rush, they almost just take off right away. And that middle is screaming to be ran through. And it's just the timing was perfect. The execution was perfect. Yeah, you highlighted it right there. The Colts rushers are all upfield. The space is there. And the rest of it is just Josh Allen making a play. He has an easy 5 to 10 yards, and he's going to get the first down, and then he makes a man miss, makes a good cut, and we get a good tackle by the safety to get him down. But it's just Allen making a play there on a really good design call from Daboll. And when you get to the playoffs at this point, again, you mentioned it, you have to empty your playbook, empty your bag of tricks. You don't want to go home thinking, man, you know what? We left this on the table, or we left this opportunity. Empty it all, shoot your shot, see what you can do. Daboll started to do that with this drive, and we saw it pay dividends for the Bills offense.
Yeah, Daboll gave Josh Allen options all game. Here's another one from the low red zone. So there's so many layers to this. So this is a run pass option, but at the crux of it is a zone read. So Josh Allen's reading the end man on the line of scrimmage. He's executing that mesh. And this was Josh Allen's best execution of the mesh. So he puts the ball in the belly of the running back, and then that extended step right there, that is selling it. He's looking up the field as well. He sells that mesh as if he's handing it off. He's making that defender have to declare down the line of scrimmage. Now he's outside the pocket, but if he really wanted to, if there was a force player right here, which it is Darius Leonard, he gets sucked inside. You'll see it from the end zone angle. There are options out here. You have a stick route right here from Diggs, and then just a flat or diagonal route from Knox there. So while this is a run pass option, there's that pass element where or option of Josh throwing it out wide here, but he keeps it, and you'll see why. Because Darius Leonard, he dove inside. He was undisciplined on this play, and Josh got leverage. He got really good leverage on Leonard here. So watch Leonard. I have him circled there. You see the edge defender feather down the line of scrimmage, the mesh by Josh. Watch what it does. Leonard, look at him trying to peek up and over the offensive line, and he's not sure if Moss has the ball. And I'm sure Moss's stature, being on the lower end right there, kind of helped the mesh between Allen and Moss there. So now Josh, look, he pulls it, and he has outside leverage on Leonard. And his eyes are up, though. His eyes are up as if he can still pass. And so now Leonard is in pursuit. He's in trail. He's got to get on his horse to shut down that rush lane for Josh. And Josh just cuts it back, and you're not going to stop him once he gets going inside that low red zone.
Yeah, the Colts defense has to honor the run aspect of the RPO here. And Autry comes down. Leonard gets caught peeking, trying to come down. The passing options really aren't there on the outside for Allen, so he has to run. You highlighted Leonard. I can't emphasize it enough. Darius Leonard is one of the best linebackers in all of football. He is an all-pro. He is phenomenal. And Josh Allen catches him in trail and plants that foot, gets upfield, makes another cut, and he wrong foots him and puts Leonard in an opportunity to have to make an arm tackle. We saw on another play in this game where Josh Allen tried to make a move and Leonard stuck him on a 3rd and 10 for about 7 yards. Wasn't fooled. He's a good linebacker, and Josh, for as athletic as he is, he doesn't have that shimmy, and he doesn't have the shake. He doesn't have that necessarily agile elusiveness in the open field. But he takes advantage of Leonard being in that, exactly like you said, getting on his horse in that trail pursuit to honor the pass option. Good play design, because you make the defense have to honor the run. Then they also have to honor the pass. Yeah. And then by the time they're trying to do all that, Allen makes a couple of cuts and gets right upfield, lowers his shoulder. Dude in the end zone was killing it all game with his celebrations and his level of enthusiasm. That was all. That guy is the epitome of all of us on that touchdown there. Again, good play call from Daboll, good design, and Josh Allen just making a really good play against one of the best defenders, not just linebackers, one of the best defenders in the entire NFL in Darius Leonard. It was a really good play, and again, it changes. Josh is an angry runner. To bring it all back, the turning point aspect, that changes everything. The Colts are sitting there, 1st and goal from the 4, up 10-7, with an opportunity to get at least 3 points. They get nothing. And then the Bills come down, 10 plays, 96 yards in 1:32, and they put a touchdown on the board to go up 14-10, change the whole game.
Yeah, it changed the entire game. That's why I wanted to look at those 2 drives. And again, everything was going, perfectly for the Colts. But when you have a guy like Josh Allen, when you have an explosive offense and the weapons that he has, it's tough to stay in that type of mode. That offense of the Colts, yes, it was going well. They were having to get the run game going. They got some explosive plays, but it's something you can only hold on to for so long, and that offense eventually is going to crack the code of the defense, especially when you're playing that too high look. And that's why I thought it was incredibly important for Josh Allen to run the ball, because it took the Colts out of those too high looks. Remember the pass to Diggs for the touchdown? That boundary safety was kind of fooling and messing with Josh Allen prior to the snap, and Josh reloaded the initial play from Dable because that safety came down and ended up blitzing, so they rotated a single high because of the threat of Josh being a runner there. Like those plays over the course of that game brought that extra defender up, and they rush him, and next thing you know, you have Diggs running free for the touchdown. So it all plays into the game strategy, and it's something I know Josh talked about it after the game. I wanted Dable to call that play earlier in the game, and then when he did call it, it was the perfect time, is what Josh said. So all of these things factor into the game plan. There's a method to their madness, guys, and you got to keep that in mind when situations arise where you disagree with the play call. It all factors in. There's a reason they have it built into that game plan in that specific situation. And I thought that Dable, for the most part, did a good job of executing in those situational plays in the game. So with that said, quick preview for next week, man. Like, what are your thoughts about this divisional round and what Lamar is bringing to the table and the Ravens all together?
We're going to see how the Bills adjust to what happened to them against the Colts. Jack Doyle, I put this tweet out earlier, Jack Doyle was the highest rated player overall, not just positionally, was the highest rated player in the entire NFL on Wild Card weekend because of the week he had against the Bills. Mark Andrews for Baltimore is a better tight end and gets schemed very well in the Ravens offense. They're a good running football team. We know about Lamar, but J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and that line, they're going to give you a lot of looks. They're going to try and mess with your head, and then they're going to try and take advantage with their physicality and their speed. It's not the matchup I preferred. I wanted to play Pittsburgh, but I don't think by any means this is a game that the Bills can't win. It's going to be another heavyweight fight. We talked about it with the Colts. For as much as people were overlooking the Colts, they were a very good football team, and that was a tough matchup in the first round. They're a good squad, and the road doesn't get easier from here. It's going to be interesting to see what the Bills defense does against Lamar, although you mentioned it earlier briefly in the episode. The Bills had a good blueprint last year against Lamar. They kind of hemmed him in. He didn't have a good game in Buffalo, and then the Bills provided the blueprint for Tennessee to use in the playoffs to beat the Ravens. So we'll see what the Bills can do. I like the idea of them course correcting and adjusting. And then as far as offense, the Ravens defense, they have good players. They haven't played up to their caliber all year, but they have a good secondary. They're athletic. They're fast. They have a good defensive line. Their ability to shut down Derrick Henry in the first round was impressive. And seeing what they did and knowing that Zach Moss is going to be out, it's a wonder how that running game is going to be affected. And I'm guessing, and I don't think it's a ridiculous guess, I'm guessing this offense is going to fall on the shoulders of Josh Allen again. Surprise, surprise. Yeah. And I think we have the horses this time to run with the Baltimore defense. Last year, we missed some opportunities. Josh missed some opportunities. We didn't have Diggs. We weren't hitting on all cylinders. I think this year it's different going up against that defense. But again, heavyweight fight. I don't think Baltimore should be confident. I don't think the Bills should be confident. This is a matchup of two good football teams who were solid at the beginning of the year, and Baltimore's picked up steam. And I'm nervous. I would have preferred Pittsburgh, but I think the Bills can do some things that can give Baltimore some problems. They just got to shore some things up on the defensive side of the ball and not get beat by the tight ends, not get beat in the middle of the field. That's a big thing as well. A lot of what Lamar does in those passes off the run fakes and those mesh points, he gets Andrews open in the middle of the field, or he'll hit Willie Snead in the middle of that field. And we saw what Indianapolis did in scheming those guys open. Baltimore can do that as well, but they've got a little bit more talent at those positions. So we need to course correct for that immediately.
Yeah, a little more talent and physicality, man. It starts up front, and the Ravens did a great job of playing like a mint front, so an odd man front last year, and basically one linebacker and then a bunch of DBs. Like, they handled Josh Allen with a 5-man front, and the offensive line, it put the offensive line in a lot of one-on-ones, and they ran some twists, and the Bills' offensive line weren't that good at picking up twists. They're better this year, I'd say, but it's still they've also added guys like Campbell and Ngakoue. Like, so they have talent. They have the horses, like you said, and I just think if you watch that Titans game, that was a battle. I mean, that was a battle up front, and guys like McPhee setting the edge against Henry, and just they had that swagger and dog mentality that that wins up front, and something that McDermott always preaches. And I'm worried in that regard. I do think it's going to come down to Allen. It's going to come down to Allen, probably outside of structure as well. And because I just don't see how they're going to run the ball. I don't know how they're going to have any aspect of a running game outside of design runs for Josh Allen and scrambles from Josh Allen. So you guys gotta brace yourselves for a lot of runs from Josh. I expect 10 plus carries from Josh, designed and not designed, because he's going to be that 85, 90% of the offense, and it's going to count. It's going to matter. He's going to have to extend drives. The Bills weren't good on third downs against the Colts last week, and they're going to have a better showing in that regard, in that situation against the Ravens, because if not, if the Ravens can get up and they can grind it out, the Bills front seven cannot handle that type of physicality and bully ball, as they used to say. So I think it's early in the week. There's a lot of things we're going to analyze as the week goes on. It's only Monday. Primetime game, big showing at home against the Ravens. So I'm excited about that, but there's a lot of work to do. And of course, we got you covered here at Cover One. Make sure to subscribe to not only Disguise Coverage, but everything we offer on the YouTube channel, all of our podcasts, Disguise Coverage, the Hoof podcast, obviously Cover One Buffalo. We have the NFL Draft podcast with Russ, Christian, Zach Hicks doing breakdowns for the national championship. They're about a half an hour in, so we're going to get you out of here. We ran a little long. Anthony, again, man, thank you for joining me in the film room, brother.
Thank you for having me. I love this aspect of the game, and yeah, it's a treat to be here and break this stuff down with you, and it's even better to do it after another Bills win. So here's the hoping that we're doing this same thing again next week.
All right, guys, we're out of here. I'm Erik.